Speaker is a great poet and a great campaigner, is Zita Holbourne from Barrack.
Rostrom's had to come down here because I've got a disability that affects my legs, so the platform's too high, we're about to step up onto it. Greetings everyone. I want to speak about the racism of the government's agenda and the racism of cuts, because this government wants to cut everything to do with equality, and all of the cuts are impacting disproportionately on different groups of people, in terms of equality. And this year marks the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington and Martin Luther King's iconic I Have a Dream speech. It also marks the 50th anniversary of the Bristol bus boycott, which led to the first race law in the UK, and was a campaign that was fully supported by Tony Benn as the local MP at the time. And in the USA, at the anniversary events that have taken place to mark the 50th anniversary in Washington, black people have said that the dream is out of reach for them in America. They still haven't achieved the dream. And what we're seeing in the UK is the equality gains that have been made have been stripped away daily by the current government. We're told that we're living in a post-racial Britain where race equality policies and law aren't needed. And the reality is that racism is increasing. There's a disproportionate impact of cuts on black, Asian and minority communities, but also on disabled people, women, LGBT people, and so on, and particularly young people and older people as well. So when you add up all of the people that are impacted by cuts, actually we make up the majority. And the cuts, the disproportionate impact of cuts, are actually amplifying racism that already existed in society before austerity took place. And we're seeing a whole host of racist campaigns taking place in the UK, and actions and policies that are leading to increased racism. Because of funding cuts, race organisations are closed, black-led organisations that focus on race equality and services for local communities where black communities live are having to close their doors. The cuts to the EHRC is weakening our protection against the disproportionate impact and against institutional racism in particular. And the weakening of equality law is an ongoing issue, which there's still more to come. Even though we've tried to fight it along the way, there is more to come in that respect. And there's discrimination in the criminal justice system, stop and search, racist attacks, and growing attacks on migrant communities, both migrant communities that are new to the UK and migrant communities that have been here for several generations. And we've all seen the racist ad vans, the immigration checks at stations where they targeted anybody that wasn't white to check if they had the right to stay in the UK, and actually stopped people that have been in the UK for several generations, on their way to work or on their way to college, to check if they had the right to be in the UK. And we've seen just in the last week, Tristram Hunt, who's a shadow Labour minister, attack Black History Month, calling it an unedifying beauty contest between Mary Seacole and Florence Nightingale, implying that we shouldn't have it and there's no need for it, and that actually some ceramics event that takes place in October is far more important than Black History Month. So it's not just the condemns that are attacking black communities. The reason we have Black History Month is not because we want a separate Black History Month. It's because our history has been written out of the history books. It's written out of the history curriculums in schools. And one of the most racist pieces of law I've seen is the immigration bill. And the second reading took place this week, and only 20 MPs voted against it. Of course, Jeremy was one of the 20. And but in general terms, the Labour Party support the immigration bill. And what the immigration bill will do is create an apartheid state in the UK, which will mean that landlords will have to check immigration status before somebody can rent a property. You won't be able to get a driving licence you won't be able to get married, and you may have to pay to access the National Health Service, which is a human rights breach, in my view. How can you be ill or be sick or desperately need medical care and you can't get access to it unless you pay a huge amount of money that you can't afford? So, Movement Against Xenophobia is a new campaign that's just been formed, which we launched in Parliament a couple of weeks ago. It's made up of 65 organisations that are responding to the attacks on migrant communities and particularly to the immigration bill. And I'd urge all of you to get behind the campaign, to sign up to it and stand up to the immigration bill, because the committee stage is coming up. And organisations that have an interest in race equality need to respond and can put in written submissions. The government agenda is not just about cuts and austerity. It is about discrimination, inequality, and it's racist in intent. And whilst we have to fight the far right, and it's right that we fight the far right and we hold counter demonstrations against the EDL and so on, we must fight the racism that impacts on the lives of black migrant people every day in the UK, because the two go hand in hand. Government and politicians are spreading myths and lies about migrants, and the reality is that migrants have always and continue to benefit the UK society and benefit the economy, claiming less benefits than workers that are born here. And I think one of the ways we can do that is to celebrate and embrace our multicultural society that we live in and not allow division to take place between different communities, because what the government want is for us to be pitted against each other, fight amongst ourselves and detract from what they're doing in terms of cuts and austerity. So we need to stand together, because it's the only way we can win if we stand together. The impact of government attacks, of cuts, of poverty and inequality, they're all the things, I think, that bond us together. So I think we need to focus on the things that bond us together. That, together with the vibrancy of our multicultural societies, the things that we've achieved historically. And I think they're far more important than the things that might divide us, and those that, you know, want to try and divide us will try and put out there in the right-wing media to make us split and go in different separate ways, and therefore not achieve and not stand up collectively together. The People's Assemblies need to include the broadest coalition of organisations, communities and individuals in each neighbourhood, each town, each city they're set up, because the only way we'll succeed is if we bring everybody that's impacted by these cuts together to work collectively. And you know, I'd say thank you for inviting me, thank you for putting on this North London event, and what we need to see is many, many more across the UK, because if we all come out together and we reach every community that's impacted by cuts, we make up the vast majority and we can win against this government, and we must win against this government. Thank you.